Biotech is a very difficult game. It's a long-term game. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of patient capital. It's a very capital-intensive game. We have close to a dozen pharmaceutical companies who have co-invested with us. One of the biggest barriers for us to become global is
Hello and welcome to Biologics Platform Conversations, where we bring the key voices who are building the biopharma of India and beyond. And today it's an absolute honor to welcome a pioneering voice in India's investment landscape, Mr. Nitin Deshmukh, sir. And with a legacy of building and backing some of India's most successful healthcare and life sciences ventures, Mr. Deshmukh has worn many hats, from being a founding CEO of Kotak Private Equity to serving on a key financial committees of Government of India. He continues to advise Kotak investment firm and has played an instrumental role in shaping the capital pathways for the pharmaceutical, biotech and medtech industries in India. He has been a consistent supporter of the Biologics platform and a strong believer in India's potential to lead the affordable innovation in the future. So today, we look forward to his unique perspective on financing the deep science and also building long-term capital models for the drug development and what it will take to make the Vision 2047 a reality for the Indian biopharmaceutical industry. We welcome you on the podcast, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
So before we begin, I would like to know your in general perspective on how the whole industry of biopharma, and this looks from perspective of someone coming from the finance background.
We have been very active investors in biopharmaceuticals for almost last 3 decades now. I should say more than almost 3.5 decades now, pharmaceuticals as well as biopharmaceuticals. We have funded more than 90 odd pharmaceutical biotech companies in the country. Some of them now have grown to very large sizes. Majority of them are very listed and large caps. But what we are also doing is funding early stage innovations, and many of them happen to be in the biologics space. So we continue to be very interested and excited about this space in general. And I also committed to investing significant capital.
And as you have been a catalyst investor for the India's biopharma industry, as you said, over the past 2 decades, what do you believe has fundamentally changed in the innovation and the risk appetite of Indian companies today?
So yes, I mean, a lot has changed. I would say rather a lot has changed in the last 10 years, not really 20 years. Indian pharmaceutical industry, as you are aware, has been traditionally a generic industry.
Yes.
There was an obsession with generics, reverse engineering, a large majority of the pharmaceutical companies, with a few exceptions, I should say. And I think what we have seen is, the innovation catalyst was really the Department of Biotechnology, the BioRac, which actually provided a big boost to the entire innovation ecosystem in the country, funding very early stage innovation, taking risks, giving grants with several programs. I mean, they started with a big program which was giving grants of 50 lakhs, and these kind of grants really spurred innovation, because we saw the great participation from the academics. We saw great participation from some of the ex-industry people moving out and participating in some of these programs. And that is what led to significant innovation. We also saw DBT actually funding setting up large incubators across the country. So today, there are more than 100 incubators, biotech incubators set up across the country. And these are all funded through a program called BioNest. Besides, we also have several other programs which are funding the companies that are established in many of these incubators today. So you have, right from you have the seed fund, the LEAP fund, you have various other SIBRI fund and several other programs, not just DBT now. In fact, DST has also been participating very actively. And they have been actively supported through various grants and equity, early stage equity programs, which has actually led to this innovation. So that's what we have seen in the last 10 years, and which is now leading to all the excitement that you're seeing. So many of the startups which are participating today in the biologics are all sort of seed funded by, you can say, by these DBT and BIRAC programs. And, and we are a beneficiary as a venture capitalist to see some of these companies come to us and look for funding. And we are also therefore selecting many of these and funding many of these. Yeah.
That is wonderful, actually. Yeah. And from an investor's lens, how do you assess India's readiness to become a global hub for biologics or the biosimilars or the cell and gene therapies that are upcoming?
So I think we have done great in generics. There is no doubt about it. We have done great in general pharmaceuticals and the formulation side as well. I think Biopharma, with a few exceptions, I think some few companies have done well. You obviously have Biologics, which has done exceedingly well. I mean, has emerged as one of the leaders. But there are others like Dr. Reddy's, Itas Pharmaceuticals, Cipla's, and Zydus, etc., which have also done well. I mean, there are quite a few other players that have emerged. But having said that, these are limited players, and the constraints have been there in terms of two things. One is in terms of original, I mean, the clinical trials, and many of these companies, except with the exception of maybe a few, are marketing these biosimilars in the global markets. So the capex is obviously very high in developing some of these biosimilars. So that's one of the challenge that you have seen in this space, and which I think is to some extent now getting addressed to by various programs, which are both by the pharmaceutical Department of Pharmaceuticals, as well as the RDI fund, as well as the DBT, large DBT funding programs, etc. And some VCs, large VCs also now participating in many of these funding. Second is coming to the biologics part. That is I think we are still in a very early stage. And while there is a lot of innovation that is happening, and there are several startups that are there, but one of the biggest constraints that we are seeing, and for which is one of the biggest barriers for us to become global, is regulation. I mean, we need to change, address and fix our regulatory framework in terms of the timelines. So there's an enormous time that is spent in terms of getting licenses, test licenses, manufacturing licenses, etc., and which frustrates innovation in some sense. And that's one of the biggest challenge, if you ask me, today in terms of the biologics. Because everybody is learning. We understand that even the regulators are in the learning process. But having said that, I think there are several benchmarks available that are outside India. I think some of them we could actually use those learnings outside from the other regulators, established regulators globally, and actually make some tweak some of them to suit our the environment, etc. in here. But having said that, we need to sort of do it much faster than what we are currently doing to really make us compete globally in some sense.
And when we talk about financing India's biopharma ambitions which are there, as India looks ahead to the Vision 2047 that we have, what kind of long-term capital mechanisms beyond the traditional VC that we have do we need to build to support the deep science innovation going on?
So I think the government has done a very great initiative today, which is on the RDI fund.
Okay.
And this is a very, very wonderful initiative, I must say. Which will come, and I think that that's going to be administered by several institutions, including BIRAC and TDB to begin with, and many others. I'm assuming for a period of time. Hopefully, these will address some of the funding gaps that are there, especially in funding innovation. So, what is happening is today a very early stage funding is happening through the grants and various other programs of BIRAC and DBT. But there is a valley of death we are seeing when it comes to the post-prototype or post-proof of concept, etc. at some point of time. So in terms of, enabling some of these funding for clinical trials and taking them to the market, etc. we are hoping that this RDI fund will hopefully address some of these funding gaps for these very innovative companies. And it all depends in terms of how, again, they are structured and how they are actually administered at that point of time. But hopefully my expectation is that RDI fund will address the various funding gaps through various innovative mechanisms also.
As you mentioned about the value of debt, so what role do you think the public and private partnership which is happening and the philanthropic funds that we have will bridge this value of debt? Like how will this manage the whole value of debt thing?
In the interesting part is there was a time when Indian pharmaceutical industry was obviously very focused on generics. They were not funding drug discovery. They were not funding much innovation that was happening in terms of startups, etc. Now, obviously, there are several challenges the Indian pharma industry is facing globally in the global markets, thanks to the competition, the pricing, and they are obviously also facing a bigger problem of differentiation in the marketplace, in the global marketplace, because pretty much everybody is doing the same thing.
Yes.
So everybody is trying to find what can I do something different. So they are all looking for something which is innovative outside. Now, this is the first time that's happening in the last 5 years, I would say. And interestingly, we have funded almost over now 22 companies in the early stage, which cover next-gen therapies like CAR-T, NK cell therapy, or tissue engineering, or drug discovery, medical devices, cancer diagnostics, etc. And we have seen very active participation from Indian pharmaceutical companies who are co-investing with us today in with some of these companies. We have more than almost close to a dozen pharmaceutical companies today who have co-invested with us in many of these ventures and have been funding across various funding rounds. So the attitude towards innovation has changed. So it's improving, and seeing some of these investors in pharmaceutical companies, we are also seeing more and more pharmaceutical companies now showing interest. So the public participation in that sense, in terms of, I would say, the pharmaceutical companies, is happening more proactively. Hopefully, that will also is also spreading into institutions. I am seeing some of these pharmaceutical companies who have also partnered with some good institutions in the country. Some of the IITs and and as well as I know with ICT, for example, they have partnered to sort of develop products, develop molecules, etc. And so that's happening now. Yes. Finding that differentiation, some differentiation in the global marketplace.
And the academia and industry
Absolutely.
is able to connect.
It is happening. It is happening. This is only the last 5 years phenomena.
Okay.
It's not a very old phenomena. So, but glad to see the change, and because it's so important to expand the funding ecosystem. It's not easy, because today a lot of funding goes for tech in India. E-commerce, tech, and that's quick money kind of situations. We have good ROIs very quickly coming for, and as well as fintech, etc. But biotech is a very difficult game. It's a long-term game.
Yes.
And it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of patient capital. It's a very capital intensive game. And so only government cannot be the only funder. Yeah. And there are very limited number of VCs also that are there in the country, funding biotech. Many of them, as I said, funding fintech, tech, etc., etc. So this partnership coming from pharma is actually going to spur innovation, as well as hopefully change the mindsets of many other VCs who traditionally have not funded biotech, move into investing in these companies at some later stage, hopefully.
Yes, they can get encouraged by this.
Certainly.
And when we talk about funding, sir, what kind of criterias are there? Maybe like, can you list down some 3 to 4 criterias you look in a company before funding them?
So, of course, broadly we go by in terms of what we are trying to accomplish out of a particular program. So we have different programs. At Kotak, of course, we have different programs. The early stage, we are only focused on life sciences. We don't do any other sector. And so currently we are funding only companies which are innovation-led, next-gen therapies,
Okay.
or very innovative services, innovative medical devices, or even for that matter, diagnostics,
Yeah.
cancer diagnostics, etc. As I said, we have done gene therapy, cell therapy companies. We have done tissue engineering. We have done cancer diagnostics. We have done medical devices. We have done very innovative services. Broad objective being all these companies will hopefully come out with products which will reduce the cost of treatment, as well as overall, whether from product or from the service. So that's the broader element. We are obviously looking from a very broad impact perspective, because this particular entire investment thesis of early stage is driven also by impact that we are looking at, that we create in the ecosystem, the healthcare.
That is important.
So that's what we are trying to accomplish. And that's the very broad objective. And then secondly, of course, then we obviously go by what the each company brings in terms of opportunity. The team is very important for us. The market opportunity of the product that it is addressing, the commitment, etc., etc. So there's this. Then everything follows after that. Yeah.
Definitely. And if you had to build India's version of a biomedical advanced research and development authority, then what would you prioritize in terms of the structure and the mandate?
So I think, I guess this particular national, what is that, Dr. Shiv Kumar is heading, and national,
ANRF.
ANRF. I'm sorry, I'm trying to recollect the short form. Yeah, ANRF to some extent is, I think, trying to address in some way through various, with more flexibility, as I say. They have been extremely flexible in terms of how they want to do that.
Yes.
And they're partnering with various institutions to enable various funding programs. I think that's a good beginning, I would say, the NRF in some sense. We don't have to really emulate everything what others are doing, but I think ANRF is probably more tailored to the Indian conditions in some sense. And I think that's a good beginning, I would say. So to some extent, I think they are bringing in very new models of funding, as well as whether it is funding various institutions like ICMR or PIRAC or whatever, etc., as well as directly into the partnering with associations, etc. So it's very interesting, that model that they're following, actually.
So that is a great one. Yeah. And you have supported Biologics Platform since the inception, I would say. So what is one thing, or maybe more than one thing, that excites you about this year's expanded focus on the 3D cell culture, NAMs, and the regulatory innovation that we are focusing on? What excites you the most?
No, this is a very good initiative. I think excellent work. I know ICT has been doing tremendous work in this space for the last several years. I think Dr. Prajakta's team has been doing wonderful work. And I think that team has had, Dr. Prajakta has had a great foresight, because today we are seeing FDA really looking forward to alternate options to animal trials. And, some of these kind of technologies that are now going to come out of these labs are going to be the future in some sense. And pretty much, I think there is a tremendous pressure across the globe, I would say, to find alternate models for preclinical trials, animal trials, and some replacing some of these older traditional methods. And hopefully we will see more industry use and industry applications of some of these technologies going forward, which will not only obviously save animals, but more importantly, reduce cost of development, and also reduce cost of reduce the timelines in some sense.
Definitely. Last but not the least, what kind of advice do you have for the young innovators or the young companies which are upcoming in this biosimilar domain, or even the 3D cell advancements and everything? What kind of advice you have for them as a company? What kind of perspective they should have towards the financial aid and the funding part?
So I think they are doing great innovations, many of them, but probably they need to sort of be a little more proactive
Okay.
in terms of going outside the government funding ecosystem. I mean,
Okay.
many of them I find are go after one program or the another after of the government for funding, so grant funding, whether it is from DBT, DST, TDB, whatever.
Yes.
So one funding program after another. I don't see them going and out and looking for funds from angel investors more proactively, or from VC funds more proactively. I would like to actually see them more proactive in that space. They will obviously therefore have to build some capabilities in their team who are probably more networking in that area. So I think currently, obviously, they are very technical people.
Yes.
And they are very, introvert in some sense, doing good work, but find it very difficult to figure out how to connect with in the industry people in etc. for funding or whatever, or VCs, etc. So maybe if they get the right people in their team, at least even one person on that side to connect, I think it will help them over a period of time. And they should certainly attend more of these such conferences actually, and connect with industry, as well as connect and try and see how they can also partner with the industry. But also more importantly, besides this, they also have to go into some of these funding conferences and attend some of these funding conferences, networks with some of the angel investors, talk to them about their innovations. I think you see, there is a lot of money out there in the market. It's there. It's just that you have to be there in front of them.
Definitely.
You have to make an effort to be there in front of them.
To be seen.
Yeah, to be seen, etc. So that's the message that I will see, at least because knowing what is happening today, I would like to see that little bit of change in the Indian startup.
And what kind of difference, in a brief context, what kind of difference is there in between the angel investors and the private funding and government funding?
So typically the way it happens is, as at least I've seen in biotech, is you will typically see government funding most of the very early stage proof of concept kind of thing through the various grant programs. It's very difficult to get angel funding at a very concept stage in India for biotech, etc. It's hard to even convince or even sort of communicate the message in terms of what somebody is trying to develop. It's unlike simple tech, fintech, or e-commerce.
We need to cross the TRL levels.
So it's so that particular funding generally is now coming from government. But I think once you have the proof of concept, I think that's when the angel investors come in typically. And so that's it's very hard at that stage to really still for the VCs to come in. Very few VCs are taking that risk. I mean, we have taken that. We are still investing in that. But I would say there are very few like us who are doing it. So it's largely funded by the pre-series A, etc. Round are typically funded by angel investors or family offices. And then you will find the private VCs, etc. will start coming in. And that's when some of the larger investors will start coming in. So it's typically there is an order in terms of how the flow of investors happens.
Okay. And everything comes back to, the whole circle comes back to the point that collaboration is important and talking to such ventures. Everything. That's great actually. So before we conclude this whole conversation, we have some quick questions for you, like a rapid fire round, for which I need your instinctive answers, a short one-liner or one-word answers. So the very first one, I need one-word answer for this. The biggest mindset shift Indian investors need to make in biotech is?
They have to start looking at biotech.
Okay. In one phrase, a fund you would love to see launched in India soon.
A fund that I would love to see be launched in India soon. And I'm looking forward to the RDA fund.
Okay. That's great. Biologics is the platform for?
Great innovation.
Oh, that's wonderful, sir. And
thank you.
With this, we wrap up the conversation. It was wonderful having this conversation with you, sir. Very insightful, I would say, all the funding and everything. It's a new perspective that we get to learn, and how important the money factor is also important in this whole industry. Not only the technical part, we should also be learning about all the finances and the financial aid. Thank you so much for all the insightful words.
Thank you again.